Hi, everybody. Joe Matico from Acumen CPG. I hope you're having a great day. I want to take a little time today and talk to you about product development spending, and more specifically, premature product development spending and how it can really hurt a development effort. The nature of my work exposes me to many different innovators and many different product types. And through the years and through that experience, I've seen a pattern emerge of where and when people are spending and how it hurts or helps their project. And usually people spend way too much money way too early in their development journey, and it usually really hurts them. But why are people doing this? What's driving this behavior of this premature spending? And if I had to break it down, I would say there's two things going on. First off, there's this desire to see some sort of forward progress upon deciding to launch your product or develop your product. And this is understandable. You want to see something happen. And if you can imagine, to get to the point from, hey, I have an idea to I'm committed and I'm going to go forward in earnest to develop this idea, that can be a long, arduous process. And it's full of deliberations and consulting your family and research and talking to your friends and examining if you have the time and the money in parallel to your day job to be able to fully commercialize and bring it to life. And when you finally get to that watershed moment and say, I'm going to go forward and I'm going to do it and bring this idea to life because I really think it can succeed, there's this desire to see something happen at the end of that long deliberation process. People want to see forward progress. They want to see something tangible. The second thing that's going on is a general misunderstanding about what is actually needed in terms of development work or development activities. If you watch Shark Tank or if you consume other information, much of the logic, or what I call kitchen logic, would say, hey, everybody says a patent is a must have thing. And hey, I need to get a prototype. Or, you know what, I need to talk to a factory and therefore I better get some 3D CAD files developed. And a lot of times these are really not necessary. Sure, some projects really necessitate getting a patent. Well, other projects really it's not necessary. It could be a waste of time and money. And the same thing for prototypes or other kind of elements. And if you've never really developed a product before, or never gone down that path before, you're really not going to have that past experience and that knowledge to know whether this is a nice to have or a must have activity. So when we combine this sense of urgency to see something tangible combined with this confusion about what's actually needed, you can quickly see how somebody who's going to gravitate and do some very expensive work really when it's not needed or when it's premature. And it's not uncommon, from my experience, to see somebody spend five, ten, $50,000 on these early pieces of activity that never really serves any value or purpose to the project. And why is that? One could argue that, listen, I know that I need a patent, so what's the harm in doing the patent now versus deferring that activity for 6 months or something further down the road? And here's what happens. The development journey from beginning to end can take anywhere from 9 to 12 to 18 months. If it's your first time developing and trying to commercialize a product idea, you're likely 24 months or more is what it's going to take. And in that time frame, you're going to be discovering lots of things for the first time, and pieces of information are going to reveal themselves over this period of time. And usually what happens is something will drop or something will be discovered in month number 6 that has the potential to invalidate all of the learnings and all of the progress from months 1 through 5. And this is really where the premature spending and spending things out of sequence can really hurt you. Because usually what kills a project are one of two things. Number one, the complexity and the number of moving parts just gets so overwhelming that you hit a critical mass to where the project stalls out and you simply don't have the experience on how to restart it or how to make order from the chaos of all the many different parts. The other thing that really kills most projects is you run out of resources. And I think resources could be defined as, enthusiasm, time, and of course, money, running out of money. And if I need to do an expensive patent 2 times or multiple patents, or if I need to completely invalidate and redo all of my prototyping or my design work, you can see how you're quickly spending very big money multiple times. And most people don't have the luxury of a deep development budget that allows them to spend this money many, many times. And usually what happens is they'll run out of gas and then the dream dies there. So this is a little bit of the background about the why and what's going on there. So with that as a backdrop, then the question is, well, what is the correct spending? Should spending be occupied as a hump in the middle of the development timeline? Should it be something at the very end? Maybe it should be an even spend throughout the entire course of the project. And no two projects will ever look the same. So obviously there's not going to be a one size fits all answer. But if I were to show you this chart here, and it shows you the ideal preferred method of what you should be doing. And what you're going to see on this graph is that your spending really should be a linear progression from zero at the very beginning of your project and should progress all the way up to where you're spending the most amount of money in the tail end of the project. And so let me go through and break this chart down just a little bit for you. What you're looking at here are the four fundamental stages that Acumen CPG views as really the core pieces of work that needs to be done to go from idea to finished product. So this first section we call the discover. And the discover phase is really all about examining the idea to make sure that it's valid and that it can work and that it can enjoy commercial success and just the nuts and bolts to say, is this good enough to go forward and can I be successful? So if you're really confident in that and you've done that discovery work and you say, yes, this idea has legs, then you go into this define phase. And really what the define phase is planning and scheduling and figuring out who your target consumer is and doing all the legwork to make a plan to go forward or a roadmap. And in these first two stages of discover and define, you really should need nothing more than an internet connection and a little bit of research. And okay, maybe if you really think a patent's important, you could do a preliminary, filing, or you could do some initial kind of freedom to practice work just to understand that the space is clean, but it really shouldn't be very big ticket spending items at this point. The third stage is what we call our develop stage. And this is where we take a look at what we defined and what we figured out earlier, and we actually put it into action. And this is the part of the process that most people think of when they think of product design or product development. This is the CAD work, or this is the design and the logos and the colors and the branding and the consumer research and the prototyping and all of that fun stuff is kind of in this development bucket. And this is really the first place you're going to be spending any kind of real money. And this can typically be anywhere from 0 to 3 months or 0 to 6 months before you really are entering this develop phase where you're spending cash. Then the fourth one is what we call the deliver phase. And the deliver phase is all about actually executing and scaling up. So this is when you're going to be engaging with manufacturers and you're going to be spending money on production tooling or inventory or setting up an e-commerce store and a web page. And as you can imagine, that this is where the money starts to get expensive. The other reason I like breaking up the development work into these defined buckets and linking that then to spending is it lets your spending gets linked to hard decision points. So let's say you're going forward and you've spent 3 months on your project and you discover that somebody launched almost an identical product in the past and it was a tremendous failure. You didn't see that earlier, and had you seen it earlier, you would have never started. At that point, you have this decision point to say, okay, do I go forward now that I know that my exact idea was done before and it failed? Do I need to retool? Do I need to pull the plug on this entire project and simply not go forward? And the whole adage about, not wanting to throw good money after bad really comes into play here. So let me pause there. I know a natural question that comes from this is, well, what are the early activities? What should I do first? What should I do second? What are the activities that really should be part of the last stage? And there's going to be another video which is going to speak to those facts. Thank you for listening. I hope you got some value from this video, and have a great day.